Go. That's better. Hey, look, I figured out how to do it. Hello and good evening, everybody. Hoping that you have sound now. There's no sound. Okay, good. That's better. Okay. Yeah, it's been a little while since I've done one of these, so definitely a lot to show off. Uh, welcome to version 6.1.0. This is probably I guess this is the first stream of version 12/version 6. Nice to be back, a little bit different. Some cool stuff that I do want to show off for everyone. So I've set up a little bit of a scene. Obviously, it's been almost 7 months, so lots has changed in the system. Not a whole ton. We can talk a little bit about some of the other things that are going on with the system. Might have seemed, especially the past couple of months, things have been a little bit slower, but that seems like it's starting to change. Life has been busy for several of all of us. We'll start off by a couple of congratulations. First, it's now Dr. Takale, so congratulations for finishing your PhD in astrophysics. And also, more recently, congratulations to Shark That Walks Like a Man for becoming full-time Foundry staff. That's very exciting for all of us here, so hopefully he'll take a little bit of a role and make sure that things go a little bit more smoothly. I think that would benefit absolutely everyone, both on the Foundry side and on the dev team side, and in the end, the players all win, so fantastic. I mean, super knowledgeable. Okay, so things that we want to start off with that maybe you know, maybe you haven't seen quite yet, but we'll sort of show it off. First, I have two different NPCs that I've dropped onto the scene here, both Belises. There is one small difference. This one down here has normal GM vision. This one, if I click on one of the players, you see that there's things that are hidden. However, this Belise here has the same sort of vision as the players. So NPC vision is now a thing that you can turn on per token. So you can select who you want. So if I make it a dark scene, we'll go through the gradient and all of a sudden we'll cut off. And we get dark vision on this creature, whereas down here, it just shows what the GM would normally see. If I turn on my GM lighting controls, it'll brighten things up. But if I switch to a token, so that'll work on all of them. However, if I switch GM lighting off, I can see what it looks like in terms of each of the characters. So Amiri can't hear, but here the Belize has dark vision, so it can see. If I get rid of the dark vision that it has, vision, I turn the vision enabled off, update the token, it just becomes a regular one again. So for those of you who want it, thanks to a lot of work actually in Foundry Core, we've been able to add this without it being a huge performance hit. All you have to do is go to your token, vision, turn on vision enabled, and you can have tokens yes and no. So I'll turn the lights back up. Another of the cool things, trying to make the system more accessible. That's sort of been a big deal. And for a lot of feats, if you want to homebrew, we've tried to make it a bit easier. So here I'll take Amiri. We're just going to level Amiri up to level 7, because at level 7, they get one of the feats affected by this, and that's Juggernaut. If you go into Juggernaut now, in the rules, there's some of the rule elements for like if the turning a success into a critical success and adjusting the degree of success. But the actual granting of the master proficiency in fortitude is now here under the details tab under subfeatures. So you can have fortitude grant a particular language or any feat or class feature. You can grant a language, you can grant a different proficiency. So there's all sorts of things. You can upgrade proficiency, your spellcasting, the other saving throws, the different types of attacks, and all of the class DCs that are programmed in. So all of those you can upgrade right there. In addition, you can also add different senses. So now if you give someone the dark vision feat, it'll just have a sense tag that says dark vision and update it in a waterfall down. So that's a nice sort of quality of life thing. You no longer have to go into the rule tab and use the sense as a rule element. And that doesn't work for every single sense in there, but for all the ones that most people are likely going to use and have a lot of automation built into the system, it's a pretty good quality of life thing. So you saw there that we granted languages. Well, we now track languages as well. So here we have Amiri, can speak Common, which we've set in the world to Taldan, as well as Howlet. But let's say instead at level 5 we took Intelligence, and we got ourselves another language boost. When we do that, you now see there's an unallocated language. So we can grant her a language, and here's the list of all the languages, and you can see Common, Uncommon, and Rare. If we give her too many languages, you'll notice that one of them will turn red. So it's in excess of the number that the character can know. Now, there are circumstances where you want to do this, things like a regional language. Now, that is absolutely a fine thing to do. And in fact, that's where we can go back to the subfeatures. We can create a feat called regional language and then select the language that they learn. Then it'll pop up and it will no longer be red. Uh, Other fun thing is when you do select the languages, now it'll sort and it'll put the ones you know at the top. One of the features that we've sort of built in, and this is a bigger one, it could almost be its own video, is we now have syntax for doing particular actions. So let's say we want to do demoralize. We just type in /act demoralize in the double square brackets, and it'll pop up. So any of the actions built into the system we can do. On hover, you can see the different traits that that it has. Here we have our target. Here we have the selected token. So you select the person who's going to be performing the action. If you're a player character, nominally that's going to be the only character you own. If you happen to be someone like Seoni down here, or whoops, yeah, who has Daji, a familiar, you'll have to make sure you've got the right one of the two selected to use the right modifier. I think for familiars it might not matter, but if you have something invested, or if you get an item bonus from something, then it could matter. You have them selected, have the creature you want targeted, and click that, enroll your target. As long as it's understood, there you go. So it was a failure to demoralize. On a success, you would get the success condition. So if we can pull out a mitflit, they're easy to demoralize. You can try the demoralize again. So success, target becomes frightened 1. You can drag it right on. There you go. So it's learning a little bit about the syntax, but it's a lot easier to remember or write out than like sort of going into the action every single time. And it's easy enough. You can code it up as a chat macro if you really want. Although at that point, I would just drag in the actual macro that exists at the back end. It's nice for game masters because with the syntax, you can add in changes. So maybe you want to demoralize using a different trait, or you want to add traits to it. All of that can now be built into the act syntax. Oh, I didn't prep this one, but it's because we don't have an iconic psychic, and I don't really want to build one live on stream. But psychic amps now have automation to them. So if you're a psychic and you amp your spells, it will now do the amped version. That was a big thing. I want to say Takale did all of that, make it all work in the back end. It was not a small project. So for those of you who are psychics, that's a fun one that's been added in. Yes, he did build that. And we've got the monster or the player core 2 coming out. We may have copies of the new iconics. So I can tell you the iconics will be released on August 1st as part of our update. It won't be available as a PDF because Alex will be at Gen Con and he won't be able to turn it on, but it will be available in Foundry. We've gotten permission to release it on August 1st. If you happen to be at Gen Con, you can pick up the physical character sheet, but the new iconics will be available and updated in Foundry, and we've got Redix working on that. So some of the other changes. Let's say that Amiri's striking bastard sword is a little bit more powerful than normal, and we can add the forceful trait to it. So forceful trait, what it does is that when you attack with it more than once on your turn, you gain a circumstance bonus equal to the number of damage dice. And this is now automated, so you can target the police. We can pop up. So I can now target it and roll damage. And you can see I can toggle on as options Forceful Second and Forceful Third Attack. And so because it's +1 striking, the striking gives it a second die, so you get 2 damage die. So on the second attack, you can toggle on 2. The third attack, you can toggle on 4. What it's not going to do, there's no action tracking still, so it's just manual. However, now these options exist right in the roll dialog, so you can turn it on and roll that extra damage. So you get the +4. Uh, this also works for things like the twin traits. So Mercial, she has a dagger and I put twin on it, and she has a rapier and I put twin on it. And for those of you, again, who don't know what twin does, you use them as a pair. When you attack with the twin damage or twin weapon, you add a circumstance bonus to the damage roll equal to the number of damage dice if you've previously attacked with a different one with the twin trait earlier in the turn. I think it's supposed to be the same ones, but in reality, I want to make another weapon. So if I roll with the dagger, you see twin is turned off, so there's the first damage, but then I'll roll with the rapier, turn that twin second damage on, get the extra damage built in. So it's just a little bit of automation to make those traits a little bit nicer, a little bit easier quality of life. Again, it doesn't track that you've done it automatically, but now the toggles are just right there. It's easy to turn on. We also have done something cool to help out spellcasters. So if we look at Kyra, in her inventory, we can see that she's got a Scroll of Resist Energy, a Wand of Mending, and a Scroll of Clear Mind. So if we go to the Spellcasting tab, there's a new section here called Activations. And when we open up Activations, you can see here's the Scroll of Resist Energy, the Wand of Mending, the Scroll of Clear Mind. And so you can draw and cast from these. Now, if she had already taken the time at some point to say have the Wand of Mending in one hand, you'll see that we can now just cast. So you cast it, it frees itself out, or you cast the spell and the spell disappears. If you want to try overcharging your wand, that's up to you. The automation isn't really there for that, but you're welcome to do that. So it's just one thing to make it a little bit easier, a little bit more fluid when you're playing the game, that you just have it listed all there. I know lots of people with dozens of scrolls and wands, so this is something that helps you from having to go find it, post to chat, or add it as a separate spellcasting entry, which isn't quite right. With the remaster, this works out really well because now your spellcasting proficiency is just your highest spellcasting proficiency. So it takes a lot of these edge cases that made figuring out spellcasting hard and makes it a lot easier for us on the programming side. So if you want to follow pre-remaster rules, unfortunately, you're going to have to do it the old way. But for everyone using the new rules, it's good news all around. One of the other features that we've added in is familiars can now access the hero point pools. Here's Seoni. No, and I've made Daji Seoni's familiar. So one hero point here, no hero point tracking. But let's say Daji does a perception check. Oh no, it's only a 25. Let's re-roll that using the hero point. So there, we save the roll, only a 13, not going to be upstaged. When we go back to Seoni, you'll see the hero point is gone. And so if I do it again, I can no longer pull the hero point because it no longer exists on the main actor. Additionally, if you want to have pets, you can simply use a masterless familiar, and it'll kind of work like a pet does. Something I'm not going to demonstrate, but something I did want to mention: the swarm immunities, and construct immunities have changed based on what's in the new version of GM Core. The ones that are built into the system now follow those rules. Again, if you want to go back to the pre-remaster rules for some reason, you're kind of on your own. You can add in the immunities, and you can also take away immunities that shouldn't be there. So that's something that you can do on the NPC actor. Let's see if I can load something clockworky. So here's a clockwork mage. So from its the construct, it gets all of these immunities. And you can see that it's granted by the constructs trait or the mindless trait for mental. So it's already all sort of built in. Using rule elements, you can suppress the innate built-in immunities by using the correct rule element. So you can turn it off. It's just a little bit more work. All on by default. Next one that we've set up, weapons with the double barrel trait. So here I've given Mauricio a double-barreled dagger pistol, because why not? And so you'll see now that there is a double barrel toggle. This is a nice way to show. It's something I don't know that we did earlier. So we can switch modes between piercing. It's a versatile slashing weapon if you happen to be using the rapier. So there's toggles there that allow you to do that. If you have modular, you'll get bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. If you have versatile, whatever, you can swap between them. So this is built right in. For the double barrel trait, so this is a double barrel weapon, you can toggle it on. You see the damage changes to 1d6 and 2 times 1d10 plus 1d10 instead of 1d4 2 times 1d6, 1d8 plus 1. So it does the increments of the step size for firing off both barrels at once. It does not track whether or not you have gone and fired one already and there's only one bullet in the chamber. Again, something that we're not doing. It's sort of up to the player themselves. Then you would have to sort of reload both. Wow, that's a bad roll. 2, 2, and 2. One of the other things that happens, so this is piercing damage, but what happens if the police here is I don't know, immune to piercing? So this weapon, aside from having all the traits that we added to it, is concussive. So concussive means that if it'll take the better of bludgeoning or whatever the damage it does. So that is now automated. We roll damage. You'll see it takes 6 damage. It's immune to piercing, but because it's a weapon, it's treated as bludgeoning, subtracts off 0. So the police takes 6 points of damage. That's another nice one that's a recent entry. Moving over to the party sheet, I've stuck a couple of the characters in the party. And in here, for Hexploration, you now have your party's travel speed, as well as the number of Hexploration activities that you can do in a particular day based on the number of people you have. So it's another nice little quality of life thing that didn't exist the last time I did one of the live streams. So I figured I'd show that off for those of you who like Hexploration. There's probably many of you who belong to the Kingmaker persuasion. So this is kind of a nice feature. It also works decently well for Pathfinder Society. What we haven't handled here is, say if you mount your party on animals and you have a temporary travel speed. I don't know if that's something that we've built in with rule elements or is something that might be coming soon. Otherwise, you can always add sort of a mount to give your character a speed temporarily. Create a feat that does that, drop it on their character sheet. You can probably make it toggleable if you want, and then it'll recompute things to give you a higher number of actions for and a faster travel speed for Hexploration. So one of the first things that we added is the use of scene environment types and scene environment region overrides. So right now, I haven't set this scene to any particular type, but I certainly could. I have to remember where it is. Oh, here we are. So you can set the environment. So we can say that this is Arctic. So this whole area is Arctic. So now if you have something that keys off of the Arctic trait, it'll work. However, I built this tiny little forest here in this region. So here's the region. So the scene default is environment that's Arctic. But this little region here, it has an environmental change. Say it's going to override, and it's forest. So I've set it as a forest region instead. So out here in the Arctic, if Harsk was to go and roll his survival check, you'll see the terrain expertise for forest is toggled off. Roll it. Natural 1. So obviously he wants to go into the forest where he's comfortable, so I move him into this region that's tagged as a forest. And you'll see terrain expertise forest is already toggled on. So a lot of feats already had this automation built in the back end. Now when you add it to the scene, they'll just work. So that's kind of a cool thing. It's something that's sort of being exploited. Regions technology certainly adding on. We have had some demo work done on difficult terrain and greater difficult terrain. I'm going to say that that one is still coming soon. We wanted to get this out the door first because difficult terrain in Pathfinder's actually pretty difficult to implement because there's weird edge cases. Like if you're going upstairs, going upwards, it's difficult terrain. Who knew that? But when you come down, not difficult terrain anymore. So that means we need sort of one-way directionality. It makes the case kind of hard to handle, at least to start. So the scenes now work. If I change Harsk's terrain expertise, so he's got forest right now. Get rid of that. Terrain expertise, and we'll set it to pick. Now out here, I roll survival. Oh. Weird that it's not toggling. File that one. Well, because that's plus 13. No, it worked. Toggle's just being weird. Toggle. It says it should toggle and roll. What do I get for changing it in the middle? Well, it's indicating the right thing, not rolling the right thing, so that's strange, but something for me to look at later. In any case, the demo did show that in this area, it suppressed the Arctic tag, so that modifier went down. I guess I can try doing it that way. Yeah, because it's see plus 13 here. When I go to roll it, it's not toggled. Here, nope. When I come into here, plus 12. A little bit of a bug. In any case, it's all built in. This is all new. This is literally cutting edge what just happened. We've also added into the system the ability to drag regions around. This isn't a core Foundry feature. This is a Us feature, but now you can easily move your region. We also have added to merchants. So here's a merchant actor. It's got a minor healing potion. It's set in merchant mode. So if someone takes it and wants to put it in their inventory, we now have the option to either make them purchase it for gold, which will reduce the gold, or the merchant can just give it to them with the give button. So the gold's not changed. When we do the purchase, see the gold goes down. The gold is now in the merchant. So one that we can do is Sela. So Sela has a shield. Yep, and I have her shield raised right now. One of the things you can do is you can now turn on as one of your token bars the shield hit point. We'll get the bleed, some critical damage. Sela is going to block that. So 30 makes through. You can see the two bars. Let's say we quickly repair it for some reason. We'll give it 20 hit points back. And now we're up to 86. It's changed it on the sheet as well. Give it the last 10 straight from the token bar. And it's up to full. One of the ones that we've also just added is our drag measurement. So that feature you can come and you turn on here in the system settings. At the bottom, drag measurement. So we'll set it to always. You might just want it during encounters. If you have it always, it makes things move around a little bit strangely. I wonder if the refresh fixed it. We're changing. Uh, okay, so now when you click and drag, you'll now get your measurement bar. We're not coloring for distance yet. This is just the first release. If you want to make a waypoint, you just hit the X key. And when you're done, you just let go. So that's just the current state of things. It's trying to eliminate all of the drag ruling modules. Will we do more with it? Yes, this is just the first release. So if you absolutely need that color coding, then maybe you want to use the module for now, leave this on never. Can't promise they'll still work after the update, but they should. And the last one, which I don't have a demonstration for, but we've just added in because of something I'll talk about in a second, is that we've added support for defining new skills using module flags. So in particular for Pathfinder or Starfinder Second Edition, we need to add the computers and piloting skills, and that will now be possible for a module to do. So it'll show up like everything else. Under your proficiencies, there'll just be 2 new lines. So you can add them in. Lores still really aren't handled that way, but if you want to use the piloting or computer skills, modules will be able to create something like that, or your own skills. So that's something that will now be possible to do. I don't know that we've documented it anywhere, but it is possible. Shifting gears a little bit, I've been asked to give a shout out, a special mention, and many thanks from the Francophone Pathfinder Second Edition community for Njiji, Herald of Lamashtu. She has translated nearly all of the bestiaries by herself, more than 2/3 of the monster core, and as well as a lot of other monsters from some of the APs. Translating is an inexact science, so renaming some of them is not simple. And from behalf or on behalf of the entire Francophone community that plays Pathfinder Second Edition, she definitely deserves a medal and a significant number of hero points. So, the last thing that I'll talk about on the stream, because I've sort of gotten through the traits, is Player Core 2 and Starfinder Second Edition. So, Player Core 2, we're working on pretty hard. We've started to get pre-releases, which means that we can start pulling in other people to help us out, which is kind of pleasant to get an extra hand or two. And we anticipate having all of that ready for launch date for Player Core 2. Same thing with the Starfinder Second Edition module. We've been working hard on this for quite a while. It shouldn't surprise anyone that we've had it for a long time. We've been working on the back end for months. We're starting to get to the point where we'll be able to add things into the front end. What is it going to look like when it comes out? I would love to have a completely new skin. I don't think that's going to be in the cards, but it should come at some point during the playtest to start building out what the Starfinder Second Edition character sheet will look like. And it'll likely look exactly like the Pathfinder one, but with slightly different coloration. Will you be able to use multiple different sheets? Maybe? I don't know. We haven't gotten that far. For the actual data, we expect to have all of the Starfinder Second Edition data into the system. People will need to keep a pretty close eye on it. We do expect some bugs to sneak in because the version that we've mostly been working off of was a very early alpha version of the system. It did give us the opportunity to put in about 150 errata requests before it went to the printers, and many other requests since. So you'll see that there is a 0-day errata that will come out with Starfinder Second Edition. That is definitely not all us, but we highlighted a lot of issues or inconsistent wording or things that were legacy carryovers from pre-remaster or a whole bunch. To use Starfinder Second Edition for the playtest, we will be using the playtest module that Takeo has made. So the one that all the field tests are in is just going to become the playtest module. So if you have the field tests, you'll update and you'll have everything ready to go. Because it's based off of the Pathfinder Second Edition core, we're not doing anything for the Pathfinder Second Edition piece of the system because the playtest is designed to be played with Pathfinder Second Edition. Once this moves to a full product all on its own, the plan is to have 2 systems, the Pathfinder Second Edition system on one hand, Starfinder Second Edition on the other. They will share a common code base. That's what we're aiming for. This is all what we're trying to do. No guarantee that this is what we're actually going to end up doing, but we're going to try and do that so that if we add a feature in one system, it's automatically added in the other. If you want the data from Starfinder in your Pathfinder game, or you want the Pathfinder game in the Starfinder system, there should be a module that will bring that data in the right format. Because there is differences, we don't know what the archaic terms or trait or tag is going to look like bringing Pathfinder stuff into Starfinder. It's just not fully decided and won't be till after the playtest. But if something like that exists, then that module should be able to adjust things. Yeah, so that's sort of the direction that we're going with Player of Core 2 and Starfinder Second Edition. For all the Starfinder Second Edition content that's coming out, so the two adventures and the four short scenarios that are kind of society-like scenarios, they'll be available and they're being made by Metamorphic as a premium content module. So they'll be available for purchase as soon as they're available for purchase. I know that they're working on it pretty hard. We're trying to do it in concert so that everything will just work on day one of the release. Just remember, this is like building a whole new system. So if something doesn't work entirely correctly right out of the gate, we'll work to get it up to snuff as quickly as possible. But for the most part, at least those of us developing the system are volunteers. Metamorphic might not be, but they can only work with the tools that we give them. We're trying to give it to them as quickly as possible. So if it's a little bit rough around the edges, it's still going to be pretty good as an experience to begin with. So that's the update that I have on the Pathfinder system and what's coming with Starfinder Second Edition. Once the Starfinder system comes out, I will probably do a release stream. I don't know if it'll be worth during Gen Con or not. The week after Gen Con, to sort of give a shout out to some of the work that we do, I'm hosting a live stream game with the Find the Path community as part of the Littlest Con ever. It's the Littlest Con because it's only the brand new 600 Pathfinder Society special that's currently offered. It'll be offered first at Gen Con and then a week later online, thanks to a couple of the venture officers who have gone out. I think we're up to something like 60 tables. There might be a seat or two left. I don't know if there's any for Foundry tables, but take a look if you're interested in playing the new special. I will be creating a Foundry module for it. And if not, I will be live streaming on my Twitch or their Twitch. I'm not really sure. The actual game being run, well, it's being run for the 60 tables everywhere else. So if you don't want to play, feel free to come and watch. It should be a good adventure from the looks. So with that, I'm happy to open up the floor for any questions. Tikale makes a good point. For any of you worried that the NPCs that are coming in, that they'll be locked behind the modules, they won't. It's going to be the same as what we do with the system. So any of the AP creatures or the Pathfinder Society adventure creatures will be built into the system. In this case, they'll be built into the Starfinder Second Edition module, and the adventures will pull from the module into the adventure itself. So you will need, as a dependency, the Starfinder Second Edition module, which shouldn't surprise anybody at all, but kind of an important thing I thought to say. So yeah, I'm happy to open the floor to questions. It's a good question. I honestly have no idea why it would do. Pretty. Well, it's not working at all for me right now. So there you go. Outside of the upcoming Player Core 2 stuff, is there anything you can share with the upcoming plans for the system itself? Um, Not really. We do plan on pushing ahead with some of Mark's stretch goals. We're a little bit slow. But now that he's been hired by Foundry, well, he's going to have to work mostly on Foundry core itself. But it does give us it's kind of nice because it'll work synergistically. So I don't know how it's going to look going forward, how much time he can dedicate to the system. The one thing that looks like it's on the horizon is adding difficult terrain in. I will say, in 3 Luki, he's really picked up a lot of slack. Much like the last version 10 to 11, he did a lot of the conversion work, version 11 to 12. So that's very much appreciated. Otherwise, uh, nothing much to say. We've always have a couple of things working on in the back burners, but I hate announcing stuff because even when there's no timeline, people get really excited and then we're sort of waiting. It's kind of like the afflictions things. Like it's still coming at some point when we've got time to do it, but it's a limited number of people and a lot of work to make things work right. Any update on Eidolon's Nano companions coming to the system from the extra life goals after Player Core 2? Maybe. It's certainly still on the list. Like I said, all of those things we want to get done. We're doing our best, but as much as it looks like the development team is really really large, the core team's actually kind of small, and especially with all the commercial work, pretty stretched. But if you happen to have a decent amount of experience and a high enough constitution modifier that you'd like to learn to code into the system, we certainly welcome contributions. It does take a bit to get everything right. The standard of the code in the system is pretty high, mostly because it really needs to be to have this size of a system. But it's very worthwhile, and you can add kind of what you want to the system, as long as it's agreeable from the sort of people who are running the planning side of it. Yes, Shark definitely did an amazing job with the drag measurement tool. It's a really nice integration. I know that people will kind of find it weird to have the X for the like typing a key to do the waypoints, but I've actually found it pretty intuitive. It's just so easy now. You literally drag, set your waypoints, and let go. And there's no hitting the spacebar. There's no your template moving away. It just sort of works. The only issue that I have right now is selecting multiple tokens at once to move them around on the screen as a GM. That being said, if you change your settings so that it's only during encounters, work the way that you expect, and then once you are in encounter mode, the drag ruler will work the way that you kind of drag ruler. Likely in encounter mode, you're not going to be trying to drag. So yeah, if after 6 months those are the only questions you have, I'm I'm happy to. I guess I'm just happy. Any new modules I like, as few as possible. Um, I know people love tool belt and workbench. I don't have tool on my playing system. Workbench I have installed because of the 0 point rule that I have, but I don't use a whole lot of it. I like polyglot because I like typing things in different languages selected. Dice tray. I like my shiny click clack dice. I've toned down the saturation. The 7 Dooms of Sandpoint dice look nicer than whatever I did to make them look like that. I don't know why they went dark on me. My favorite campaign moment. Um, A little bit of a spoiler for Rusthenge, because I just finished Rusthenge last week with some of the Paizo staff, and the final battle, you can gain an NPC to come and help you if you befriend a certain group, and that NPC is a level lower than my party, but they contributed the most damage in that final fight to the point that they were healing the NPC rather than each other to keep the NPC up because it was the biggest threat on the table. And it was just the NPC ruled really, really well. It was absolutely hilarious. Everybody loved it. They wanted to adopt the NPC as part of the party because we'll probably go on to Seven Dooms of Sandpoint next. However, we're going to take a little bit of a break. My Paizo game is going to pick up again in September, and we're going to be playing Starfinder 2nd Edition. Bypassing of manual rolling on blind rolls is supposed to work out of the box now. You have to be on the latest version of Foundry. It's a core Foundry feature. Not really system based, but it should work out of the box. Built-in drag ruler get color coded based off of actions. If you mean number of actions you're going to spend, yes, that's in the plans. It's just something that we didn't get out for the very first version. Did I enjoy my vacation? I don't know that it was really a vacation. Other than I did spend some time, go to Costa Rica. It was a lovely country. I would go back again. Give a shout out to Gate 1. Took us around. It was very nice not to have retirement or retirement from project managing. I'm still around to help out. I'm still around to sort of solve or arbitrate when it needs to happen, but taking the step back, dealing less with things, a positive thing for my life. I'd be willing to show off Shark's amazing work with token transformation animations. Let's see if I can find one. You give me some character that has the change shape feature. I didn't drag one in. Drag ruler account for elevation ed eventually. The one that's built in. If you mean going up is hard to indicate with a two-dimensional ruler. So the answer is I don't know. Maybe Shark will add something so roll wheel up and elevation and distance. It's possible. I'm not going to promise anything. Okay, well, I'll give another minute for questions. I missed any? Yeah, I know that there's creatures that do have the transformation. Yeah, the animations are kind of cool. I can always do it on another stream. For Hand of the Apprentice. To damage. I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I don't think this would work because right here with the dark. Oh no, I guess it does not do that at this point. Maybe I'd put it into the the get tracker. Foundry doesn't natively support measuring distances in 3 dimensions, but we do. I mean, if I give someone an elevation, I mean, it's along a line, but the distance that it computes is 30 feet out, 40 feet up. So if there's something with dart, I think the dart has a range. Increment 20 feet. I'm only 20 feet away, but it's more than 20 feet because it's in the air, so dart does add the range penalty. Yeah, there's 2 range penalties there, but if I go to the ground, there should be no range penalty. No range penalty. I haven't upgraded to version 12. Any major gotchas? No, I've been on it for a long time. It depends on the modules that you use. If you use something that I don't know has warp gate, requires warp gate, then that's not going to work. It's up to you and your modules. As for the system, we were ready pretty much day one or really close. Oh, it was adding in. I thought it added the spellcasting. Supposed to add the spellcasting, not int. So it was adding int, but her spellcasting ability modifier is definitely charisma. Likely an old rule element on it. Yeah, it's changing it to ability int instead of whatever the spellcasting ability modifier is. It sort of works, but it'll just have to be fixed. You say that, but what happens if somebody multi-classes now or takes the wizard archetype? Because you will just use your best modifier, you won't use it. If Seoni was to take the wizard archetype, then they would be able to use charisma based on the wording of the. So I'm sure it's doable. We just haven't done it. It's something that can go in tracker and someone can probably patch. Well, with that, the stream's now been running for an hour, even if I wasn't on. Sorry for being a couple minutes late. I did want to finish my dinner. It's been a pleasure to be chatting with everyone. I'll give one more plug. Feel free if you want to, if you think we've done a great job and want to support the team. We always appreciate donations to our Extra Life campaign. Sure, we'll do another sort of live at some point. It's up to anyone who I owe a coaster to. They are literally all right here, just waiting to be sent out. I feel bad because I'm definitely way behind on that. So I apologize, but all the coasters are made and ready to go. So I wish you all a pleasant evening. If you have any other questions, feel free to post them on the Discord. Otherwise, I'll probably chat with you once the Starfinder module comes out. Have a wonderful evening and happy gaming.